What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and today we're going to predict the ban list before it drops, and then we're going to compare it to what happens tomorrow, actually. It'll be a shorts covering the restriction list, and then Market Watch will cover it a little bit as well. So without further ado, let's dive in the video and talk about it. So first off, we know what ban lists do. They restrict cards usually. There's only one ban card in existence right now, and that is Mega Digimon Fusion, and that's just because the next time one of your Digimon digivolves a level 6 to a 7, reduce the Digievolution cost by 6 at the end of turn, return the Digimon that digivolved with its effect to the bottom of its owner's deck, trash all Digievolution cards. You needed to play white to make it a reality, but if you start looking at things that got hit prior, like Ice Wall, Reinforced Mem Boost, they created a unhealthy design. Reinforced was really actually pretty decent. Savior Hawk and Xmon, this was because Chimeramon was a problem. Being able to digivolve your Savior Hawk, slam down a Sistermon, then digivolve up, have your ability to restand by playing another Sistermon and stuff like that. Having Sistermons in play really made it too easy for this deck to people not to get off the deck. So, and then Xmon as well was spamming out. You would rush in with Xmons, produce a bunch of regular Xmon after one scatter mode death, and then Chimera that in, swing in for damage. It just got really ridiculous pretty quickly. And then like Hidden Potential discovered and Argomon, definitely because they ramped up too quickly, and it's showing a little more hindsight. Hidden Potential discovers a little more powerful than we are used to. So stuff like this does play into account. And then we have like Tommy, Jet Sylphie, Shoutmon ×4, Doru Gray, Sunrise Buster, basically playing into Tamer strategies. And then boom, this was before we had like Hades Force in the format. So this made Crossheart even more devastating because they just played the right color Tamers. Boom, you could remove any threat off the board that could answer you, because minusing DP, there's not much protection against it. And then like ×4 would just keep constantly cycling in and could kill you pretty quickly. And that's just things like that. And then, Doro Gray, just because of the multi-checks, they really are trying to get off, OTK strategies so that it kind of alleviates the strategy. And then Calling from Darkness, because of the ability to, this card can delete a player's own Digimon and collect Digimon cards from a player's own trash for a low cost. As a result, it causes various endless loops and supporting unintentional playstyles. For this reason, we decided to restrict this card to one copy per deck. So again, loop decks, they don't really like looping in this game because it takes too long, and I don't blame them. So what we're going to take a look at here is the EX4 BT12 meta that has happened. This is usually what kind of strings into what decks get kind of hit. So what are we going to look at here right now? First off, Red Black Greymon. It is tribal, 85 tops. And then if you take in none other than your BT11 data, the Black War Greymon decks themed around this as well, so it produced more data that way. And then Beelzemon has taken up a good considerable size lead into 61 tops, and that's showing up as the deck did get its advancement. It would have done a lot more probably in BT11's format with the advanced deck coming into play, but it was delayed until December. So right when BT12 was released, they had the advanced deck. So that really alleviated some of Beelzemon's top probably in BT11, which now we're going to see this top. And then you have like Hunters, Red Hybrid, Bloom Hydra Quartz, Crossheart, Grandis still appearing, Xmon, Maste, stuff like this. Stuff to take into consideration. So what we're going to take a look at. First off, let's take in what rulings they created for Ultimate Cup that kind of made it a little more healthier. Will this reflect as in ours? I don't think so. There might be a few hits that could really show up just to weaken some of these stronger decks, but I think possibility this could possibly see these two cards, maybe. Just hear me out once we get into that further in. This move I don't know about. We'll have to see, and I'll talk more about it when we get later into it. Then let's take a look right now in the Japanese meta, just for, EX stuff. Beelzemon, Red Black Greymon, 62, 73, Blue Flare Hunter. All the good stuff is all across the board here. I mean, we can see what they're doing, and, let's take a look at some of the tops. So first off, Beelzemon. Kind of key factors here is that every Beelzemon list is starting to look the same, but that just comes with the territory. The deck has an advanced deck. It has X Antibody support, and people feel like the deck is quite strong and quite good. And that's to be expected. The deck is a very powerhouse-centric deck. You will have the EX1 Imps, and then the Wizardmon, and then Death Stinger. Some people are claiming that something of these three should get hit, and I'll explain a little bit more the justifications and ramifications on possibility weakening it down without killing the deck. Then we do have, the War Greymon stuff, the Greymon Tribal. So this is Black War Greymon, and you can kind of see where everything is here. People are crying for Hades Force hit or Greymon X Antibody hits, stuff like that. We'll talk more. But even then, you do have just regular War Greymon, where it's this and this. So what are we going to take away from this? And then finally, something that most people are probably going to wonder is, what will we do if, you hit the top ones of those centrics? What happens? Well, in BT12, there's a new card called Quartzmon. And to be honest with you, I feel like once we get to this point, we're going to see some massive game changers. And what do I mean by that? I'll explain this in a minute, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit of hit to green one more time. And it's not just Grandis going at it. I think we need something else. But let's taking into the Eggman's, website. Check it out, eggmanevents.com. He gathers all the data now in one very nice location, sets it up. But so taking a look at what Ultimate Cup has once you hurt Black War Greymon a bit, stuff like this really does start shining a bit more. And then you start seeing like Bloomlord topping heavily, Bloomlord showing up. We get Blue Flare kind of being like King Champ here, and that's just because Stun is just a fantastic value card. And then you have Mervamon doing something, so hitting purple, the Cerberus loop stuff is not bad. So keeping that restriction in, purple's still doing things here, which makes this more viable, stuff like that. And then, Gaia Force, Bloomlord, Ancient, Blue Flare, kind of the top dogs we kind of see are here. And that's just kind of expected, I think these four are just kind of expected now. People kind of know what to expect between these guys very easily. So let's get into what you guys are here for. And that is the meat and potatoes of this, or, the good stuff here. I think first off, let's talk about this across the board. Do I think Cerberus Werewolf mode should be hit? So using the Ultimate Cup rules and stuff like that, I think they want to stop looping or an extreme excess of memory gain. And if they're going to do this, they're going to hit Werewolf mode. But the deck doesn't disappear. Purple still has a lot of viable decks. Even going forwards, I think Cerberus mode getting restricted to 1 to 0 is not going to hurt anything. I think just prevents the loop going on further, just because of the ability of having a rush on deletion, gain 9 memory. Originally, when this was just a simple one-trick cantrip, when it was, designed to just blow up your Cerberusmon by playing this and then just getting all the memory back, not terrible. But now with the fact is that we can do this for 4 and then gain 5 memory, is starting to show its ugly colors very easily. So I think taking that into account, I think hitting it and restricting it is not a terrible idea. So now let's talk about the Beelzemon deck. Yes, I know I'm not doing color centric, but I feel like talking about purple a little bit really does help out. So if we were to hit Beelzemon, to be honest with you, it's either between the Wizardmon, I feel, or the Impmon. So Impmon helps you mill and extend your plays, speeds you up. People feel like this card is one of the reasons to hit the deck, just because you want to slow them down a little bit. If you restrict this to 1, it would slow the deck considerably. I think it would be too much of a hit to slow it. If they moved it down to 2, if they ever made a semi-limited, bringing it down to 2 is not terrible, and I think that would be acceptable. But if you bring it down to 1, I think the deck struggles a lot more without this mill potential. And especially even if they are playing the Impmon from EX, the original set, BT1, it's an on deletion swing. So you need to either swing or your opponent has to pop it to trigger your mills. And that might not be enough. And I feel like just having the effect of this Impmon being able to help you out is really good. And I think if you take this into account, I think this can stay at a full play set. I think if you're going to do something, hit its extensions. I think bringing down Promo Wizardmon down to 1 would not cripple the deck. The deck would still play at a similar pace, but now it doesn't have enough. It doesn't get all this free value. Hitting 3 to 4 Wizardmons in a mill session is what really speeds up the deck in a consideration. Milling doesn't do anything except speed up the clock for the deck. But it's the things you mill is what's mattering at the moment. You can just mill yourself out. That's not going to matter. It's the fact of what you hit is what's really causing the problem. So I think restricting Promo Wizardmon down to 1 would be fantastically beneficial. It allows the deck to still breathe and do what it wants without hurting its consistency engines of milling and stuff like that, where you don't want to hit those. But if you hurt the Wizardmon, it at least now doesn't mean that if they mill 2 Wizardmons off the top, boom, now they're not extending their plays crazily. They're just going, still doing what they have to do with the memory they got. So if you restrict Wizardmon, now that's only 1 memory. That means Death Stinger at 4 plus a Wizardmon is only 5 memory they can gain out of their mill sessions, which is not terrible and not too broken. So I feel like hitting a Wizardmon and keeping the Death Stinger is a really good card. And I think removal wise, we need cheap removal that has some stuff like that. So I feel like just hitting the Wizardmon's a good enough hit to really slow the deck down. But does the deck need it? I don't know. It's a tough field to be on, but hey, that's just what you want to take into account. So you might be wondering, why is Bloomlord and Quartzmon in here? Well, they're not really here for anything besides an explanation. So first off, let's talk about what these 2 cards do respectively. First off, Bloomlord itself, you may suspend one of your Digimon, then gain 1 memory for each suspended Digimon with Vegetation, Plant, Fairy in one of its traits you have in play. If you're 2 or more, this effect on suspended Digimon gain Piercing. So the major thing about Bloomlord is that you just play with memory resources and you have a good chance of keeping up. The problem comes down to is that there's a card between this and then adding in Quartzmon into the mix. When Digivolving, suspend all Digimon except this and suspend all Tamers, then gain 1 memory for every 2 suspended Digimon and or Tamers in play. So what comes down to the problem with green right now is this card. I think hitting potential might actually get hit to 0 just because this thing makes it so that Bloomlord will always get free memory off of this. 1 hidden potential discovered now creates a uneven battlefield with most decks. I think hitting hidden potential discover will actually fine tune and keep decks in fair checks. I think putting in fair check is where we want to be, and I think hidden potential discovered going down to 0 is really good. I think Bloomlord and Quartz going out is fine or safe. I just feel like If you hit Hidden Potential Discovered, it makes Bloomlord, Quartz actually more fair and reasonable to play with, especially if you're hitting other decks that are been tier 1 contenders. Now you lose out on more and more ways to deal with Quartzmon, and I feel like that's really what you need to worry about. Let's talk about Grandis Guaga. I feel like Grandis Guaga is one of those cards that, well, not Grandis, Grand Guaga is one of those cards that are going to get restricted down. It's just showing that it's been far too long with these OTK strategies that people are really getting tired of them, and they're just so powerful that, yes, this Digibursting out. I know some people have requested for a Quartzmon to get hit, the promo, but I feel like if you take this out, Bloomlord's still fine, even if you hit Hidden Potential Discovered. It's a very powerful deck, even when Quartzmon comes out. But Grandis Guagamon, taking this out and bringing it down to 1 makes the deck a lot more fair in its design. You have other Guagamons to play with, and you get the ability to still have your Grandis be able to restand, but you're just not checking a bunch of stuff. This was similar to how they hit, you know, the Doro Gray. It was just too many checks can get added too quickly, and yes, this doesn't have protection, but yes, it's frail and stuff like that. But I feel like if you take decks out and make Grandis kind of disappear, it's not bad because people are getting tired of getting OTK'd out of left field. So I feel like this really does help out. Next, though, let's talk about it. Elephant in the room. Death Xmon. So why are we talking about Death X? Well, it's quite simple. People want this hit, and I feel like banning this card is just not a smart play. I get that there's a lot of strategies that go wide, and they're trying to play around it, but the problem comes down to if you don't hit what's spitting out 30 Digimon in a turn now, we're going to have this issue going forwards. Right now, the reason why Ulti Cup doesn't even have a Xmon issue is because there's a color restriction. Xmon would be one of the top decks in that format if they didn't have the restriction because Death X is banned. I feel like restricting Death X down even is not going to matter. Most people play it at 1. It's not a terrible card. I think design-wise, it's really good. It's a very powerful boss Digimon that is, you don't play into it. People need to play smarter against it. Death X is a fine, resilient build card. And to be honest with you, when it's only being played at 1, it's not that terrible. Next, though, let's talk about the Greymon shenanigans. So first off, people are requesting for Hades Force to get it. It's already only played at 2. Some people play it at 3. But, I mean, hey, it's a played at 2 kind of scenario. I don't have too much issues here. I think being able to have control of a board state and keep tamers in check is really needed sometimes. Yes, do I think that the 5 cost is a little ridiculous? Maybe. Maybe if they hit X Antibody down to just 1, makes this a little less easier to, you know, activate consistently. So I think that might be something big there, is that if this gets down to 1, this is fine. So that could be a possibility here. We hit X Antibody and Cool Boy to weaken the decks, just because the fact is they need to errata this to once per turn. Any deck that can restand a couple dozen times is an issue here. And I'm looking at you, where Greymon X Antibody. So the thing is, I think Hades Force hitting it is not terrible. It just, I don't feel like it's necessarily the best choice. I think Hades Force is a necessary evil in a format like this. We need ways of controlling tamers, and just having just Quartzmon, Death X, and stuff like that, I feel like is not worth it. So at least having Hades Force, it's really much playing smarter and harder. Next, Greymon X Antibody. The reason why I'm bringing this card up is I think this card needs to go. I think bringing it down to 1, the reason for this is that no matter what happens in the future, this reducing by one for each color it has is too strong. I think being this one coming out, people have said hit this just to keep Greymon X in reality. I think doing that is not okay. I think because even this bringing down to 1 is ridiculous. But the fact of, if we hit this, bring it down to 1, less consistency means both these cards are guaranteed to be paid at full price, and it's not terrible. You just have to resource manage a little bit more, make timing plays a little bit more, and understand a little bit more what's going on. This being making this 2 costs, for 2 costs de-digivolve and delete a 3000 DP is ridiculous, and then the ability to swing into your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. I think just hitting this fixes the ultimate line, and it future proofs the deck, because no matter what happens, any dual color Metal Greymon that comes out is going to be too powerful to work with this card. It just doesn't matter what it does. Raid is way strong for this card. You know, de-digivolving, delete something with 3000 DP is too strong for this card. I feel like this card creates too much issues where these two are not the problem. These two are fine on their own when they are not being comboed with this. So hitting this down to 1, making it less consistent, really decently fine. I feel like that's going to go. Some people have said Shoutmon needs to go, and to be honest with you, I'm not on that boat yet. I think Shoutmon, even though giving your stuff rush is a very powerful card, I think Crossheart is just not that broken anymore. Yes, it has had plenty of tops, but again, it's just people's preference of style. A lot of people like Rookie Rush style plays, and as long as Hades Force is in existence, it kind of gets checked. Death Hex checks it a bit. Just people weren't fully ready with Death Hexes spitting out stuff because they were focusing on the Black War Greymon matchups, and being able to control this board is more important. So just stuff to think about there. And then, you know, you have where Greymon X Antibody. Why am I going to talk about this? They banned it in Ulti Cup. Yes, because Cool Boy and X Antibody are basically banned in that format. Where Greymon X Antibody being able to unsuspend this Digimon is, I think, out of the 3 possibilities, the Greymon Promon, the Where Greymon, and this card, I feel like this is going to be a future problem. Similar to how Greymon X Antibody is, the free unsuspend, you know, and then being able to bounce a 4 lower is ridiculous. I think also this becomes magic numbers a little bit too easily, because then only things that kill this thing with a certain stack, you know, if you have Gabu and, you know, the Sunamon underneath, you instantly are now 10k, and that's the problem. I think being able to get 2 checks with a 10k is just too strong, in my opinion. I think, and with the battle protection is just really too good. So I feel like restricting this down to 1 makes the deck on even footings. Yes, I know Greymon, Black War Greymon X just laughs at this deck, but being able to slow it down a little bit and check it, I think bringing this down to 1 would be the best course of action. I think hitting anything else, if you guys understand math here, 8k is easier to check in because mostly all ultimates are in the 8k most people play, so it'll lose the battle checks. The protection is where it needs it the most, so as long as you can get rid of those couple swings, it's not that much of a lethal deck. So I think that's a good hit. Cool Boy, we already know X Antibody decks are just really good. And even going into it, you know, we have Alphamon coming back in full swing. It has new support, new power-ups. So I think hitting Cool Boy, bringing it down to 1 to 0 is the best, healthiest way, because it just future-proofs any X Antibody issues we have in the future. And especially since most X Antibodies are mostly in the top ends, it just hurts, you know, Greymon, Gurumon. Hitting that, plus hitting one of these 2 cards for each one of those decks, and then Grandis Guaga makes all those OTK decks a little more fair to deal with, and they're not too broken anymore. X Antibody, I've already mentioned, just because of this deck, it's just ridiculous. But outside of that, it's fine. So the last 2 cards we're going to talk about. Chaos Degradation. I feel like it's a fine card, but this is using Ultimate Cup rules. I think maybe this going to 1 is not terrible. It gives Setcon a little more, you know, I have to play something different, just because being able to bottom deck, you know, place one of your opponent's Digimon face down at the top or bottom of your opponent's security stack. If you do trash the top card of your opponent's security stack, I feel like this is too strong in certain circumstances. Its security effect is fine in security, but the fact of the matter is, you can't play around Chaos Degradation. in any capacity. And the fact of the matter is, people go like, oh, put it at the bottom, trash the top. So now your pieces, if you had a way of cycling things back, you can't even reach it. So I feel like Chaos Duration is one of those cards that might get watched a little bit. And then finally, Marcus. Marcus is because people are seeing how powerful Shine Greymon is. People want this card to be a little... Deck needs a little snip, but that's just because of how the format is. I feel like Marcus is fine. You need to have the deck breathe a little bit. And yes, Shine Greymon's very powerful, but we don't know if it's going to be the deck to beat for the next 3 formats. So I feel like hitting Marcus is a little too soon, but that's just me. I feel like Marcus is fine right now, but if you had to, bring it down to 1. And it wouldn't kill the deck. The deck has ways of making any Marcus a swinger now. So that's just how that's going to be. But that's all in all what I see. Guys, what did you think of this video? Let me know down in the comments what you would hit or restrict. Hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you next one. Peace.